I think we just fixed our technical issues there. We have begun. Awesome. All right. So, apologies for the slight delay in getting things started for the folks that were joining us live. I know our marketing team is about to share the slide that is the title of the webinar and why we're here today. So while he does that, I'll get started since I don't want to waste time if we can help it. And we do appreciate everybody's time who's here live, number one, as well as everybody who's going to be watching this on the recording. So thank you all for your time and your attention. We hope and plan to make this as informative as we possibly can. Hopefully you'll find some value in this. My name is Rich Fowler. I'm the channel partner manager with k-ecommerce. We do business to business e-commerce for the world, mostly with Dynamics products and a few other ERPs. With me, I have two of our esteemed colleagues and special guests and experts in their own right. I'll let them introduce themselves after I tell you who they are. So first up, we've got the North American channel manager for Boyum IT. That's Joe Walsh. And then with the TM Group from Michigan, we have their Vice President of Business Development, Kevin Brunton. So, Joe, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about you and Boyum IT?
Thank you, Rich. It's great to be with you today. And Kevin, I look forward to the discussion. I am a channel manager for Boyum IT. Our motto is we like to bring products to life. And that's it's kind of a fun phrase to discuss with people when you think about a product and where it starts from its ideation phase to its launch to that process along. So it's a really a fun company to work with. I come today with you. I'm at the B2B online conference in Chicago. My head is being filled up with all kinds of facts and ideas that I look forward to kind of sharing with you on today's session.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here, and we'll be picking on you for those facts as we go. We also have from the TM Group, Kevin Brunton. Kevin, tell us a little about TM.
Yeah, so TM Group is a Microsoft Dynamics partner. We've been in business 40 years, and we're a full service partner. We do Business Central, CRM. We've got integration and development teams. And my personal background, I've been in ERP space my entire career, which is now going back 43 years, 44 years. And I've been doing manufacturing for about 35 of those years.
We won't make any more comments other than that. Yes. And manufacturing has changed in the last 45 years. Some of the things we talk about. So the title of this webinar is the revolutionizing the B2B world. We should probably identify and define some of the terms that we're going to be using. I am surprised sometimes by the amount of people that don't understand the difference between B2B and B2C. So let me first start with the B2B world. B2B is the acronym for business to business, and that is specific and very important to manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, people that use multi-channel and omni-channel channels to sell their products. So business to business is a complete specialization over the business to consumer or direct to consumer. You may hear it B2C or D2C. So that's direct to consumer, business to consumer. That's kind of table stakes to get started. And that's the easy side. That's one transaction, one credit card, one price, one and done. That should be pretty simple to do. When you get into B2B, it becomes incredibly more difficult. It becomes incredibly more complex. But as they talk about the revolutionizing of the new B2B world, the things that have changed, they're demanding personalization. Even though it's on the web and you think it's 1 to a million, it's not. It can be up to 1 to 1, and buyers are demanding personalization and making sure that you understand them and what they buy and why they buy and how they pay. And in your channels of distribution, you may have multiple multiple different streams, multiple different catalogs, multiple different everythings, and those things matter to the B2B buyer. And that's just kind of scratching the surface. So as we talk about the revolution of the industry, I think I'll start with Joe, since we all have a little bit of snow on the roof here. For those of us that still have roof, I don't have much hair left, but we've seen this transform for a while. What are some of the things you're seeing change, Joe, and what are the new expectations in the business to business e-commerce buyer?
Yeah, it's a big question. I think businesses have to take a step back almost and think about what the customer how the customer is best served, right? You talked a lot about sort of the transaction side to lead into this question, and what I hear from our customers often is they're not want to get better at what I'll call the informational phase, and that is getting information to customers in a highly productive way. It doesn't necessarily have to be transactional yet, but what you're doing is you're reducing friction internally in your business to prepare information that is advancing the customer's journey. So those are some of the big expectations that I think the B2B customers initially are expecting from their suppliers, right, or their vendors, is get me information that's high value, that I can trust, that I can get quickly, and will help me make a purchasing decision or evaluate my options in a powerful way. So it's really about powerful data, quality data, and reducing the friction to get it to the customer. I think as we move through this discussion, we'll get more into, sort of the transactional components and, what a business should think about when they want to go full scale, digital e-commerce.
So that's part of the research that I did coming into this. You talk about reducing the friction and making it easier for the business to business buyer to get from point A of I need something to the end of the process, which is product at my door. A couple of statistics that kind of stood out to me, and these were, I believe, Forrester statistics and a couple others, which we can cite later. But from the easy to find, easy to search, easy to find alternatives, if it's not easy to find, if it's not easy to search, if I'm expecting a widget and it's called something else, or if the names change or whatever the case may be, 40% of orders are lost at that point because they can't find what they need quickly and easily, and they move on. So it's not even yet into the transaction. It's getting the information I need so that I can make that transaction. So yeah, that's a big deal. And then you also mentioned the second point, which 30% of orders are lost because the website or the transactional database is slow or murky. If it's not easy to flip through, and you know how fast we are on our phones, 30% of the orders are lost because it won't process just to get me to the point that I can't find information I need. So those two things can cause serious hassles and headaches in the B2B world. Kevin, you deal with customers in the real world and manufacturers in the real world every day. What are you seeing, and any examples that you could cite?
Yeah, I want to tack on to Joe's comment about personalization. We've got a customer that builds heavy equipment, and they've historically worked primarily through dealers, and they're now starting to try to figure out how they can get more closely aligned to the actual customers that are buying the equipment. And one of the things that we're looking to do in a portal, in an e-com portal, is to not just present the parts that are available for replacements on that truck. It's not a Granger, it's not an Amazon search for a part thing. It's a let me put the VIN of my vehicle into the portal and show me how that vehicle was actually built, because a lot of these are engineered to order. So they're specific to that particular application. I could have a dozen pumps out there, a dozen different hydraulic pumps, and I need to know the one that was installed in my vehicle. So that's how, making things more personalized, it's personalized right down to the truck that they bought.
Okay, and that ties in. You mentioned earlier the B2B and the B2C. So this particular customer would be both. They would still be. They're
Yes,
not going to. They're not going to ditch their dealer channel so that they can go direct to the world. They're probably. I'm assuming they're going to maintain the dealer channel and optimize part of the world by letting part of the world come in B2C as well as to the dealer channel.
absolutely. Yeah, become more omni-channel is the buzzword for the last couple of years. Be able to sell through all the different channels.
And each channel has its own specific set of challenges, and and you have to be aware of what those are. So we
Yeah.
talk about, we talk about revolutionizing business to business. And I did again. I'm a data nerd, so I did a little bit of digging. In 2023, in the U.S., manufacturing accounted for a little over $2 trillion in transactions, just manufacturing in general. In 2027, that expectation is over $3 trillion. So if you're using the math there, we're growing a couple of $1 trillion every couple of years. The way things stand right now, we don't have the capacity to capture all those orders and move things forward without getting into the B2B world and making B2B happen as quickly and as seamlessly as I think we can and will need to. So I'll start with Joe. What's the investment that you're seeing from manufacturing by going into the digital side, and where do you see opportunities and or threats?
Yeah. Where I see companies prioritizing their efforts, it's really more on the foundational side. So they're thinking about what an information architecture should be in their business. And to do that, you have to think about all these different elements that will go into being or accompanying you on your digital journey. So it's understanding where you're mature or immature in these different areas of your information architecture. So an example of an information architecture might be, where do you score internally on your data quality, right? Do you have a good standardized way of naming things in your business? That's important certainly when it comes to product data, right? Do you have a workflow in place where you understand or not ready to be published to a channel or some marketplace? So there are ways that a business can score itself and decide if it's mature or immature, unpredictable, ready grade information to take to the market. So I advise companies to build a foundation of their information architecture, and then they can start layer in the tools and the processes that help them transact online and effectively are digitally enabling themselves.
And I'm going to make you expand on that just a little bit when
Hmm.
you talk about the data quality and the data that's available. Kevin mentioned his customer has data that needs to go out to the world and data that needs to go out to a specific piece of the world. How do we segment that?
Yeah, well, it's again, it's understanding your customer, and internally having a team that can segment data and tag it properly so that it can be delivered to the right market. So, these are internal human-driven efforts initially to understand how data should be classified in what system. So those are all important decisions that businesses should mobilize around, and therein lies the opportunity.
Kevin, same question. Opportunities and threats.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest threats and also one of the biggest opportunities is AI. Um,
That's what I just wrote down
initially,
here. I was hoping to hear you say that.
currently, it's starting to become a great tool to analyze things. Being able to ask English language questions, whether it's within ERP system or via Power BI that's connected to your system. But we're starting to see AI-enabled agents, and one example is things like sales order suggestions. You bring up a customer ID, it suggests the parts they want, but it's not just a list of all the stuff they've ordered in the past. It's a recognition that they order item 1, 2, 3 weekly, and they order item 1, 2, 5 every other week, and they order item 3, 4, 5 monthly. So it's time for all three of these to order. So that's what it brings up for a suggestion. And then it's just click, 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 save, release. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to start seeing with AI over is streamlining your process to make automation better and allow you to compete better without adding people.
And that's you hit it right on the head as far as both the opportunity as well as the threat. That's the AI, and we at k-ecommerce have been working that in. So the friction and trying to reduce the friction of the order was always and has always been one of the main things in the B2B world, because you have to think of a couple things in the B2B world. In the B2B world, it's not only a matter of if there's too much friction, I've lost the order, but because it's business to business, this is my manufacturer and my distributor. If I've lost the order, how many times do I lose the order before I lose the business? And now I've lost a distributor, and that's painful to everybody. So people have to think beyond okay, we just lost this order. Yeah, you lost the order, but you also put the entire customer at risk. So reducing that friction in getting the order placed, and again, order placement from start through payment, reduce the friction all the way through. AI is going to be and is already becoming a bit of that. And if you really want to think about it in caveman terms, the first AI for that kind of thing, Kevin mentioned it. It's the spreadsheet. I know I buy these things on this month, and I buy these things every 2 weeks, and I buy these things every week, and I put in the spreadsheet and bring the spreadsheet over and throw it in. That might have been the first, let's call it digital automation, but that's an easy thing to do. And then taking it to the next step and getting AI into that is also, it's going to be big, and that's where we're going to see a whole lot of innovation. We talk about moving it through and going from 2 trillion to 3 trillion. I was kind of surprised as I looked at how much manufacturing matters in the U.S. economy. About 17% of the U.S. economy is manufacturing based, and that's just direct. That doesn't add another 10 to 15% that are part of the indirect manufacturing side. So you're talking, a quarter of the economy is reliant on manufacturers getting their products to the people. Those people then, we're still about 10 to 11% of the U.S. workforce is in manufacturing. So as we talk about folks on this podcast, manufacturing matters, and it's a big deal. So we have to, the word was revolutionize. We have to revolutionize what we're doing, and then we have to make it as efficient and frictionless as possible. More stupid statistics that made me go, ooh. Kevin mentioned we've been doing this for more than 1 or 2 years. The trend in manufacturing from 1980 to today, so you can figure out how many years that is, because it just depresses me to think about it. But manufacturing productivity has almost doubled. It's up over 80%. So that's exciting. And to know that we did all of that without AI, or with caveman AI in the terms of spreadsheets and apps and things like that. What does the future hold? It's going to be interesting to see. As we think about what the future is going to hold for that productivity, if we start to think about implementing a B2B e-commerce system, the average e-commerce system rolls over, and I say average, there's an average, but about 18 months to 2 years. Business to business manufacturers, distributors go, okay, I bought this and now it doesn't fit, or whatever the case may be, but they re-platform every 18 to 24 months. Now, we at k-ecommerce are pretty proud of the fact that ours is considerable multiples of that longer. So we hold our customers much longer because we're a complete partner from start to finish. But if you think about the implementation traps of redoing that every 2 years, Kevin, I'll start with you this time just so that we don't have to, you don't feel slighted that I start with Joe every time. What kind of implementation traps do you see at the TM group, and how do you get people around them?
Well, I think the biggest trap is probably the simplest one, and that's where people want to continue doing things the way they've always done them. Um, if you are implementing a new system, whether it's e-commerce or ERP or whatever, if you are simply replacing this platform with the previous platform and continuing to do things more or less the same way, you're going to outgrow that or outpace that, or it's not going to be current enough um, within that really short time frame. If you take a step back and take the approach of we need to look at our business processes and how that can be improved by these systems, and take advantage of the knowledge of your partner on what your partner has seen other people do, then you're going to have a longer runway once you implement those things. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we do in our planning processes with our customers.
All right, and that I'm over here trying not to cheer when you say talk to your partner, because I that drives me crazy, and it happens so frequently. It happened to me yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it's, the people that don't leverage the power of their partner, because yeah, the partner does this multiple times a week for the entire career, and the TM group's been around 30, almost 40 years, if I remember right. Help me, Kevin.
41.
41. Okay. So been
Yeah.
around a day or two, have seen several hundred customers make good decisions and bad. And
Yeah.
the power of being that partner and knowing the verticals, and you being from Detroit, you've got some automotive tier one and tier two, and you've got some other manufacturers, and you're good at what you do, and people need to understand the partner is part of that equation. Joe, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think when we think about common mistakes or pitfalls that we see, there's kind of the projects, right? And that is there's a lack of a mandate across the business, right? So that's maybe some of the low-hanging fruit, particularly in when we're talking about digital transformation. Maybe there's more, maybe more of a need, I think, for more of the business leadership and stakeholders to be really invested in this, because it's easy to fall behind and fall behind faster if you don't kind of get it right, right? So I think the stakes are a little higher in the new digital economy. Um, I see often there's businesses that don't have a clear process map of how departments interact together, how in our world, how products move through a funnel and can make it to market. So I think documenting that sort of as is state is vital if you want to transition to a better state. Know where you are today so you can learn how to get to a better place. So we often see that. And I would say the third thing I see often is the um, folks underestimate what's involved with integrations. They forget about this piece of machinery over here that contains data that you rely on that needs to connect to this. Well, what do you do when you introduce a new system or a new process and you've forgotten about this silo of data over here that you've been relying on? So yeah, that's a common pitfall we see is sort of underestimating what may be required on the integration side.
And that part makes
To,
me,
to comment, Rick, to comment on one of Joe's points, he really hits it spot on with the fact that things are moving faster because of the digitalization, and we're about to see a quantum leap. Coming back to my earlier comment about AI, the big risk with AI is not doing it right. There's going to be a bunch of people that do it, and their digital transformation is going to get even faster and farther. And if you get left behind, you won't be staying in business.
I heard. So I'll make 2 points there. So to the AI point, absolutely. I heard someone say once, and I believe it more and more every day. The fear when AI first came out was, AI is going to replace humans. Well, I don't know, and the quote, I don't know that I believe that completely. However, I do completely believe that humans with AI are going to replace humans without. I think that's
I think that's a
going.
great way to say it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I can't take credit for it, nor will I, but I think it's the way to go. And the integration piece, again, from the k-ecommerce side, one of our strengths is the fact that it is a direct integration into the ERP system. You're not, you're I don't want to be mean about it, but I am going to be mean about it. You're not relying on your owner's nephew to write an API that hopefully works, and then when the ERP changes or upgrades or something happens, those are not the things you want when you're running a multi-million-dollar manufacturing business. You want a proven, tested, app source ready, in the case of Microsoft, integration that's already there. And when that doesn't happen, obviously the things of the upgrades and the breaks and the fixes and those things come into play. But it's also a matter of, now you've got certain people using this system over here, but they really needed this, so they're using this one. And what you envisioned from Joe's point earlier of an entire integrated ecosystem is kind of sort of there, but these guys aren't really doing it, and these guys aren't really doing it. But so, and numbers go nuts, and it makes people crazy. So anyway, yeah, I can go off and do an entire podcast on why an integrated system is just the way we should be going, but nobody wants to hear that anyway. So to finish up on that question, we talked about the 18 to 24 month trap. Kevin, what are you at the TM group doing to help people avoid that replatforming and replatform trap, and make sure that everything stays where it is and where it needs to be as it goes?
Well, I think part of it is making sure that they're doing the right things. We sometimes have customers wanting us to automate certain things, and that's always a good thing to do. But sometimes they're wanting to automate something because it was hard to do in their old system, and it might not be hard to do in their new system. So take things in smaller steps, get the new system in, and then start automating, rather than trying to automate right out of the bat. That's just going to cause the size of the project to grow, which gets you further and further away from the latest technology.
And introduces things like scope creep and other things. Before I steal your thunder, Joe, do you want to build on that?
Sure, sure. Well, at Boyum, we focus on helping companies centralize and optimize product data to take to market in a PIM system. And the customers that gain adoption and do it well, they start with a small proof of concept, right? So they don't try to eat the whole elephant at once. They take a category or two, highly visible products across the business, and they master a process in the system um, that works. So they now feel like they have ownership of a new process. They've gotten some value, and now they can replicate across larger parts of their business. So we always stress that our customers should start small, learn, and then grow from that experience, and be realistic too. Know where you are in your maturity curve, right? I talked about assessing your own maturity or immaturity with technologies, and uh, put a realistic budget and timeline against that, so you don't get everybody frustrated downstream.
So it's not like the shows we see on TV where the young couple right out of college wants a $3 million house. They're trying to figure out which one of the three they're going to buy. Yeah,
Unfortunately, it's not like that. No.
yeah. Well, or fortunately, no. I'm going to
Yeah.
throw a curveball to you, Joe, because you mentioned something that we probably should have identified before I got started. So I'll take the heat for that and apologize
Okay.
for that. You mentioned a PIM system, and I'm going to ask you to not only explain what a PIM system is and what the acronym is for PIM, but how
Mhm.
how you differentiate it against a CMS system, and then define that as well.
Sure. So product information management is PIM is the acronym for product information management. And it's different from a content management system. Think of CMS a la k-ecommerce as your customer-facing system that will promote data and present and display data on the website, right? And help your customers transact and have all the business rules that facilitate that transaction so it reconciles back with the ERP, right? Well, PIM will systems, and it allows a business to enrich product data in a way that's really powerful for the end customer to consume. And we'll help a customer model their data, have as many categories, have as many attributes, model rich to script, make product information really powerful. You can do that in a PIM system and promote that data out to your channels, including your CMS system. So that's where kind of PIM fits inside the process map of a business, if you think of it that way.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was after. They are not competitive products. They are absolutely complementary products. And the more complex and the more challenging the information becomes on the inventory or the product side, the more a PIM or a product information management system becomes necessary. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another a real win for a business if you have those three components aligned, ERP, PIM, CMS, you're helping a company, with the speed to market kind of equation. A lot of companies they want to get product to market quicker, right? They want to turn inventories, right? And if you can condense the amount of time it takes from start to finish, then you're winning in the marketplace. And that's where they become really powerful.
Awesome. All right, so we've gotten to that point. So Kevin, you play with customers, and I said you work with. I call it play because I like playing with customers, and this is fun to me. It's one of the joys of a job where you get to like what you do is you get to go out and play every day. So playing with guys like Kevin and Joe makes my life fun. So as you talk to your customers, Kevin, uh, we've got a lot of challenges in the industry. The first one I'm going to ask you to define, and I think you were the one that defined it to me initially, disintermediation. How is that affecting you and your customers?
Yeah, disintermediation. I think you actually found that term through some of your research, and then I had to look it up when we first started talking about it. But what
I didn't
that
know what it
means is
was.
getting rid of the middleman, basically, right? And that's where the k-ecommerce platforms of the world come in. But it's not just about throwing up a website where people can order your products. A true customer portal in the B2B world, as opposed to B2C, the customer has a lot of enablement. They can see the status of their orders. They can even enter their own orders. They can see the status of production for the parts they're wanting to buy. And they can even manage some of their own processes, like requesting a quote or those kinds of things, requesting a return. Um, if you're not doing it and your customer finds out it's a lot easier to work with someone else because your competitor is doing it, you're going to lose them. So that's where obviously the portal comes into play. Finding the ways to make the difference in how your customers do business, not just in how you do business.
So I think was it Joe that mentioned earlier the voice of the customer. And in your discovery, at what point do you start capturing what the customer, we know what they say, but do we always hear what they mean? At what point do you start capturing that information?
Yeah, exactly.
So from our side, and Joe, I'll let you answer the same question. And if you don't hit the things I'm going to hit, I'm going to jump on top of it. But
Okay.
talk about that. Build on what Kevin was saying.
Yeah, it's I was thinking about this question maybe from a different perspective when we talk about disintermediation, right? Cutting out the middleman, and maybe that has the distributor sort of gets their hair up on their back, right?
Mm.
What I think is really powerful is for businesses, manufacturers, and distributors to join your associations. Make sure you're part of your industry association. Make sure that you're developing standards that you all agree with, so that in the world of distribution, you can stand up and say, no, I'm important here. You can't necessarily with products. You need me. I'm a value add to your business. So when I think of that word disintermediation, I think there's ways to counteract that and unite and remain a value add in this new world of the digital economy, right?
So I will
So I
jump
think
on
what
that.
you're
Go
saying
ahead.
there is rather than getting that middle person out of the in between, partnering with them closer, so it's a more seamless flow through.
Thank you. You said it much better than I said it, Kevin. I think that's all we needed to hear. Right, right.
And as we talk about that, so the things that tend to come out from the B2B side, another one of those statistics, 73% of business to business buyers after the initial transaction. So let's assume that they have gone through some onboarding with the manufacturer. They know how to place the order. They know how to find the things that they need to find and answer the questions that need to be answered. 73% of those buyers don't want to deal with the traditional sales channel after that first transaction. So that's where I was seeing disintermediation. I'm eliminating the middleman by eliminating the middleman mush, but I'm not eliminating the middleman as a distributor because that's necessary. So things like personalization, and every dealer may see a different catalog and only the things that they can see in that catalog. And supremely importantly, their pricing and their terms and their account payment options. And excuse me, Kevin mentioned, inventory and shipping times and maybe shipping costs and all of those things. A distributor may be located in point A and warehouses in points B, C, and D. And, what are my costs to and from, and can I find those things out? Those are the kinds of things we talk about cutting out the middleman and cutting out the mush in the middle. If we can cut that out and make that as seamless as possible, we're addressing that 73%. As the buyers get younger, they get more and more digital. So we want to make sure we do that. We'll address that 73%, keep them happy, keep them placing orders with limited friction, and then keep them as customers. Now, as I look at the clock, we're also getting close to our time. So let's do a couple of things. We probably have about 3 minutes each. So I'm going to ask each of you, as you talk about the next year to 2 years, we talk about the rest of 25 and 26. Let's start with Kevin again. What's your roadmap for the next 18 months from the TM group, and how are you going to move forward with those B2B customers to keep them ahead of that curve?
Well, I think, believe it or not, there are still a lot of people that are not operating in the cloud. Um, we talk about AI, being the next step. We've been coming to the cloud for several years now, but manufacturers have to understand that the cloud is more secure than your on-premises servers. It's also easier to navigate. It's easier to expand, easier to grow. So one piece of advice is to get your core systems in the cloud. I've done hour-long presentations on this subject, so I could talk for quite a while, like you mentioned earlier, Rich. But that's my one piece of advice: get to the cloud.
And you're echoing what as Microsoft and ERP partners have been telling people for a long time. We all know we have those that aren't going to be there, and we're going to have to deal with them. But the cloud is where it's going to be if you're going to capture that $3 trillion that's coming, and 73% of the world that doesn't want to talk to you. Yeah, you've got to be there. Joe, take the cloud out. What's your roadmap?
Well, I'm going to be talking to customers about what I said at the top of the conversation, and that's their information architecture. Are they taking a realistic, clear view snapshot of how their data is structured today and what improvements they need to make so that it's AI ready? right? So that's the conversation that I see myself being in throughout the balance of the year. And all this can be not to solve every problem in their business, but to solve little ones along the way. I think AI is, I think somebody said it here at B2B Online. It's right now as a productivity hack, right? Use it to eliminate a little tiny bit of a process that, you don't need a human for, right? So I think that's where my conversations are going to be throughout the year. And I want to see when we come back and have this conversation again 1 year from now, you guys can grade me on how I did.
We'll put it on the calendar. We'll at least have
Yeah.
the conversation. So we talked about revolutionizing B2B in the coming year. We talked about the cloud. We talked about AI. We talked about another $1 trillion coming into the economy. We talked about a doubling of efficiency. And we've talked about ways to do that all the way from the structure of your data through talking to your customers and making sure that you're getting them what they need. One last word from each of you. Number one, thank you for being here. Kevin, last word.
Get to the cloud, build your A, build up your systems, make them more connected.
Joe?
Surround yourself with good people that are willing to experiment, build your AI muscle.
Partner and
Yeah,
occasionally
if you
fail.
don't have the ability to build your own AI muscle, find a partner who does.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you very much. We are proud to partner with both the TM Group as well as Boyum IT. We've got events and have had events together, and we'll continue to do so. You're fabulous partners to hang out with, and you're pretty smart guys in the world of manufacturing as well. So thank you for being here. Any questions, any concerns, anything that you'd like to ask these two, we'll happily facilitate those questions. Send us an email, drop us a note in LinkedIn, however you choose to do that. And maybe even have AI rewrite your question once you get it, just to start the practice and make both these guys happy. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back in a bit. From
Thank you, Rich.
k-ecommerce, I'm
Bye,
Rich
Kevin.
Fowler signing out. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rich.